Shockwaves rippled throughout the Kingdom of Denmark today when King Hamlet reportedly lay motionless for several hours, showing no signs of life. Medical practitioners learned, after giving the king a full physical, that the cause of the problem lay in the fact that the king had been dead for 6 weeks. Queen Gertrude has announced her plans to marry King Hamlet's brother Claudius, who, according to her, had absolutely nothing to do with King Hamlet's death. But not all signs point to a happy marriage. We have reports of strange sightings around Elsinore in the evenings leading up to the semi-incestuous wedding, with each successive night bringing with it another horror. So, bit of a bummer the king died, isn't it? Right on. At least the queen fell in love again, eh? Well, if you ask me, something strange about that Claudius jumping right in Gertrude's bed before his brother's body's even cold. If you ask me, I think that while King Hamlet was out doing king stuff, old Claudius was polishing the queen's tiara. You know what I mean? You know, what's wrong with you? That's a ghost there, isn't it? Reported ghost sightings increase around the grounds of Elsinore. It was very ghost-like, very much in the manner of ghosts. I tell you, it had many ghost-like qualities about it, to the point where I would say maybe a ghost, or a ghost-like being, possibly a ghost. To further shed some light on these strange events, we have with us the Ghost, live via satellite from the torturous flames of purgatory. Thank you for joining us. So, can you tell us why you've been haunting the grounds of Elsinore these many nights?
It's what ghosts do.
The wedding of Claudius and Gertrude was a cause for celebration for everyone, except Hamlet.
I suspected Hamlet wasn't entirely thrilled with the wedding, but I assumed it was because we served salmon at the reception. I know he hates salmon. Salmon.
But Claudius was not the only one who noticed Hamlet's melancholy disposition.
He never came out and said so, but you could tell by the things Hamlet did say that he thought this wedding was kind of incestuous. I mean, he never said so explicitly, but if you read between the lines, you get that idea. He would do things like call Claudius his uncle father, or, tell Gertrude she was her husband's brother's wife, or he would say something like Claudius is an odious, incestuous beast, or say, hey, what's with all the incest? Or say to Claudius, you suck, you incestuous incest man. Those kinds of subtle things, when taken individually, don't really paint the whole picture, but when you add them all together, you get the impression that Hamlet wasn't quite as happy as he made out.
The only surviving footage of Hamlet at the wedding offers little insight into his state of mind at the time.
Incestuous piece of...
But others were less cryptic. Laertes, the son of Chamberlain Polonius, was anxious to return to France.
Bonjour! I am off again to the City of Light, Paris. Of course, I could not leave without first warning my sister Ophelia not to be too serious about this Hamlet, eh? He is not in control of his own life, after all. Not bad advice, don't you, pas? Of course, first my papa had to give me advice on how to live a virtuous life. Whatever, I am just happy to go back to France. Isn't it great? Oui!
There is a significant difference between the English used in Shakespeare's plays and the English used in today's classrooms. In order to facilitate the instruction and the enjoyment of Shakespeare's masterpieces, we here offer a translation of the text that may be more palatable to today's young academicians. Let us take, for example, Polonius' speech to Laertes in Act 1 of Hamlet. Now these few precepts in thy memory see thou character.
Polonius is saying, keep these thoughts engraved in your memory.
Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act.
Don't say everything you're thinking at the time, nor act without thinking it through thoroughly.
Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar.
Be friendly, but don't scratch yourself in public.
Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice.
Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice.
Costly thy have it, as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy. For the apparel oft proclaims a man, and they in France of the best rank and station are most select and generous, chief in that.
You may feel free to buy nice clothes, so long as they are within your budget, but don't go around buying fancy, flashy duds just because they caught your eyes when you were walking down the street one day. Like one time, I was going down Fifth Avenue, and I saw this denim jacket with rhinestones in the collar, and I knew it wasn't my style, and some part of me may have even known it was a lady's jacket, but I went in and bought it anyway, just because I occasionally like to wear sparkly clothes. It's not a feminine thing, really. Ow!
Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry.
Don't lend money, or borrow money. If you lend it, you'll probably never get it back, and lose your friend in the bargain. And if you borrow money, you'll end up with 5 credit cards and a QVC addiction.
This above all.
This above all.
To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day thou canst not then be false to any man.
Be consistent.
Be consistent? What kind of crap nonsense is that? Well, that's how this Hamlet Made Easy book does it. Please don't hurt me. That's it, I'm out of here. Wait, that's not in here. Hey, no improvising!
No, wait, no!
My client and I stand by the assertion that Mr. Tweed's injuries were the direct result of the negligence of one Mr. Tweed himself. My client has nothing to apologize for. My client is guilty only of being a dedicated servant of the state, a dedicated husband, and a dedicated father. In fact, after giving that sparklingly brilliant advice to his son Laertes, he moved on to a calm, rational discussion with his daughter Ophelia. He had been hearing that she and Hamlet had been seeing each other secretly, but he took it upon himself, in his caring, fatherly way, to talk it out with her rationally. He vowed to put a stop to their relationship, yes. He told his daughter that men, on occasion, are not to be trusted, that they are occasionally not true to their word. He then went into a very well thought out, detailed analysis of the costs and benefits of dating someone such as Hamlet. He warned her that if she were not careful, she may end up in a situation that she had not bargained for. His daughter Ophelia, respectful and obedient, as she had been raised to be, understood her father's point of view and did agree to cease all contact with Hamlet. On hearing this, Polonius was very happy. Ophelia was glad to have pleased her father. They embraced warmly, and then they went on their individual ways.
The events of that night would forever alter the fortunes of every last inhabitant of Elsinore.
I was so wasted that night. They were firing off cannons left and right. Really got the little lady in the mood. We just kept firing cannons left and right all night. He just kept drinking, you know? I mean, any more and we get permanent hearing damage.
Did you notice anything suspicious?
Huh?
And so the three set out on the grounds of Elsinore. It was that night that the ghost first appeared to young Hamlet, and added a slathering of vengeance to Hamlet's already heaping sandwich of indignation and anger, complete with depression chips on the side and a tall, cold glass of disgust.
I didn't tell Hamlet anything. Well, that's not entirely true. I may have let some details slip about how I died, but there's nothing that he didn't already know, or suspect at least, or, eventually hear from me. But that's it. I didn't tell him to do anything. All right, that's not entirely true. I did imply that, it wouldn't be a bad idea if he found himself with nothing else to do one day to kill Claudius. But, I didn't actually tell him to kill him. That's not entirely true.
Hamlet would eventually regroup with Marcellus and Horatio, but would be silent about what he had seen and heard. It was after this fateful meeting that Hamlet's demeanor markedly changed. He began to act more and more strangely, as his friends Marcellus and Horatio reported.
I don't know what you're talking about. Hamlet who? So wasted.
That's it. That's it. Wash those shoulder blades, you saucy minx.
Marcellus, jeez! What are you doing here? Did you hear what happened? To whom? Ophelia. What happened to Ophelia? Hamlet went into her room tonight, scared her out of her bloody wits. What do you mean? Well, I was near Ophelia's window when it happened. And what exactly were you doing outside Ophelia's window at 11 o'clock at night? Look, you want to hear this or not? Alright then. Alright, look. Hamlet comes in, right? All undressed. His knickers are in his ankles, his hair all disheveled. Don't even get me started on his shirt. It's this weird retro 1200 number with these sleeves. Will you please? Alright. Look, he bursts in, and he grabs her by the arms, right? And he stares right into her face. It's a beautiful face, too. You know what keeps her skin so smooth? Every Tuesday night she treats it with this mud mask of Pro Vitamin B formula with this extract of Bernardo. Okay, so Hamlet just looks at her, right? And then, like, shakes his head like this. And then just runs out the door. I'm telling you, this has something to do with that Polonius forbidding her to see Hamlet for these past few months. This could just be part of Hamlet's plan. Remember after he saw his father's ghost, he said he might start acting weird and all? But why act strange toward Ophelia? Let's see Horatio. Hey, what you looking at? Nothing, let's go. Wait, is that someone's shower? I'll see Horatio, come on. Well, wait, is that... Life or Death Matters, let's go. Nice shoulder blades. Let's go!
But Hamlet's lack of pants during his nighttime visit to Ophelia was only one of the things occupying Polonius's mind. He also had his concerns about his son's escapades in France. Soon the evil worm of doubt began to burrow through the previously rich soil of paternal love, creating a smelly pile of suspicious mulch.
Polonius hired me to sniff around Paris and find out what Laertes was up to. I never actually found him. Or if I did, I never came back and told Polonius about it. To tell you the truth, I just plumb forgot. And he never showed up again, so... Come to think of it, he did cash my check. That jerk. Paris was nice, though. Good croissants. And as far as Hamlet went, I was just sure he was crazy with love over my daughter. That would explain the wild behavior. The breaking into a room in the middle of the night and wearing no pants. That jerk.
But Hamlet's wild behavior had already spurred Claudius to take decisive action. He immediately called in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Hamlet's childhood friends, to do his dirty work.
Hey, when the king calls, you answer it, you know what I'm saying? I'm Rosencrantz. Plus, we'd heard stories about Ophelia. Rumor had it she was on the lookout for a rebound guy. No, with a C, dude. I've been trying to get rid of Rosen whoever for years. He just keeps coming back, like a fungus. But when the king called and asked us to appear in Act 2, I knew somehow we'd be killed. Hey buddy, almost done? I thought we'd go for a hike and maybe, check out the local plant life. I just spoke to her quick about it.
The normal business of a king continued. Soon, Claudius received a response from the King of Norway.
For those of you unfamiliar with the foreign conflict lurking symbolically in the background of the story, it may be helpful if I were to give you a brief outline of the history between the two nations.
Fortinbras challenged Hamlet, but Hamlet beat Fortinbras, and Hamlet got Fortinbras's land. But now Fortinbras's son wants Fortinbras's land back, and demanded it back from Hamlet. But Hamlet died, so he demanded it back from Claudius, who refused. Now Fortinbras is mad, and begins to gather together an army. But Claudius wrote a letter to Fortinbras's uncle, the Norwegian king, and told him what Fortinbras was doing. The messenger who returned to Claudius informed him that the king found out what Fortinbras was doing, scolded him for it, and promised him all kinds of money if he would just go and attack Poland instead. Fortinbras agreed, and everyone's happy.
All he asked for is, here's the message to attack Poland. Now, Fortinbras merely asks permission to march through your kingdom on his way to attack Poland. Now, there are several things that can
Ooh.
mind here. First of all,
Who's the hot little number with the cleaning cart?
he is merely trying to get his forces into a...
Might be time for a little reconnaissance mission, if you know what I mean.
So it is... That would also possibly mean death for us all. What? Oh, yes. That sounds excellent. Thank you. My lord, we are here as per your request. Who the hell are you?
Ratzenberger and Guildenstern's plan
Rosencrantz.
was to bring in a troupe of players to entertain Hamlet. But Hamlet saw a way to twist this around to his advantage and bring the bright lights of the theatre to the multiplex of Claudius's guilt and illuminate the sticky, soda-stained floor of his soul.
First of all, Hamlet told me that he was like a big, big fan of mine. And I was like, that's cool. He had seen me in something with, I don't know, Greek people in it or something. It was a really sad story, but, you know, my role was really fulfilling.
Which character?
I don't know, some Greek guy. Anyway, he comes up to me and he says, go. Yeah, 5 cases bottled water. No, you know what? Make it 6. All right. So, he comes up to me, 7. He comes up to me and he says, can you study and speak some dozen or 16 lines that I would write and slip in the script? Why? No reason. And I was like, yeah, I mean, anything for more stage time. You know, so I get the lines, and they're pretty controversial. I mean, he even renamed the play The Mousetrap.
What were the lines?
Oh, something about cheese? So, who are them chaps you brought in the actors? Old friends of Hamlet's. Guildenstern and Rundenstein, I think.
Rosencrantz.
Well, I heard him talking to Claudius a few minutes ago. Something about putting on a play tonight. I wonder if the story will be eerily similar to the circumstances surrounding King Hamlet's death. As long as there's nudity. I don't know. Not the state of mind Hamlet's in. I overheard him before I came in here. He was talking to himself and thinking over some deep philosophical questions. Like what? To be or not to be? Well, that is the question, isn't it? I also thought I saw Ophelia heading his way. I think things are still strained between those two. I'll see. It never ends well when a lady interrupts a deep philosophical soliloquy. Especially now when I hear she's doing all this as part of a big plan by Polonius, just to find out what's bothering Hamlet. If anyone can help him through his time of need, it'll be that precious angel. Bloody moron! I'm sorry, I thought you were paying attention. What's that look for? Look, don't be mad, it was an accident. Okay, now put your sword down before you...
This is bloody brilliant!
It may be helpful at this point to explain precisely what the plan was that Claudius, Polonius, and Ophelia were working out.
Everyone had noticed that Lord Hamlet had been looking quite melancholy recently, and Polonius suspected that it may be because Hamlet was in love with Ophelia and was upset because Polonius forbade them to see each other. So, the plan was to test this theory thusly. Claudius and Polonius would hide behind a curtain, while Ophelia pretended to read in front of the curtain. Gertrude would be sent away because she's a woman and they don't count for anything. When Hamlet arrives, all melancholy, she would say some pre-planned thing to bring out whatever love he might have, and prove once and for all that Polonius was right, that they do love each other, and that all will be fine as soon as they are united in blissful couplehood. It didn't quite work out that way.
Affection? Polonius thought Hamlet felt affection for Ophelia? Yeah, and I'm a chaste and upstanding ruler who's never heard of fratricide. The kid just needs some air, you know? So I decided to send him to England. You know, let him see the sights, sample the local flavor, you know, get all the urges toward domestic abuse out of his system. And if time permits, you know, be killed according to my secret plan. Right after the play tonight. He's out of here. I hope it's a family play.
Welcome to Balcony Banter with your hosts, Christopher Marlowe and Ben Johnson.
Hello and welcome to Balcony Banter, where tonight we'll be reviewing The Murder of Gonzago, a thrilling tale of love, betrayal, and painful ear-related death. I am Christopher Marlowe. With me as always is Ben Johnson. Ben? Thank you, Christopher. I, for one, am giving this performance 3.5 goose feathers for its touching portrayal of a widow-to-be's determination to remain true to her dying husband. See, I really must disagree with you here, because in my mind, she is merely saying what she thinks her dying husband wants her to say. And the moment he dies, she'll be flirting with the mortician. See, where the play loses me is in the second act, when the king is murdered. I mean, ear poison? It just sounds so, I don't know, icky. See, for me, this is where the play really picks up. I mean, the murderer's words chill me to the bone. Let's look at the clip. Thoughts, black. Hands, act. Drugs, spits, and time the green. Confederate season else no creature seen. Thou midst the rank of midnight weeds collected with packet span, thrice blasted, thrice infected. Thy natural magic and dire property on wholesome life usurp immediately. And kill my brother, so I might marry his wife and become king of Denmark. Do you think this might have any connection with King Hamlet's death? No. Me neither. Completely unrelated, obviously. I have to go. Yes, in conclusion, great play, great king, love Claudius, sure he's innocent, must go.
Hamlet's plan worked perfectly. He got the evidence he needed and shared his discovery with an equally enthusiastic Horatio. But one person who did not enjoy the play was Claudius, who became furious over Hamlet's implicit accusation of foul play and murder. He also felt the ending was out of character and added specifically to appeal to the 18-24 demographic. He did enjoy the scene with the puppy, though. But, puppy or no, he decided to send Hamlet to England along with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, where he would be immediately put to death. While Hamlet went to see his mother, Claudius stopped by the chapel.
I like coming down here. Gives me a chance to clear my head, you know, get all the crimes off my chest. And it gives my nephew a chance to sneak up behind me and run me through the dagger. Plus, they don't put a lock on Nevada Sacramento wine. It's got a nice smoky flavor. Do you leave? I knew you wouldn't have the guts to kill me, big sissy.
But there would be killing, and there would be guts. Hearing a noise behind the curtain in his mother's room,
Achoo!
crap. Hamlet drew his dagger and stabbed Polonius to death, thinking it was Claudius.
I suppose on some level I knew all that snooping around would come back and bite me on the posterior eventually. But it should be said in my defense, the only reason Hamlet caught me is because of my allergy to dust. And behind that curtain, there are dust bunnies the size of badgers. That Gertrude, not much of a housekeeper. Plus, who would think Hamlet would bring a dagger to see his mother? That jerk.
There are some who speculate that Hamlet was further motivated by another visitation by the ghost of his father.
Okay, so I did drop by. I just wanted to say howdy. I mean, I didn't think there'd be dead people on the floor. Well, that's not entirely true. A lot of blood, eh? And some guts. Well, I suppose this means that Hamlet's in a bit of trouble, huh? Oh, I don't know. You can get away with a lot when you're royalty. Even killing Polonius? Well, you knew he had to die eventually. What about us? Oh, we're supporting roles. No one cares.
What was also too true was that Claudius was terribly upset that Polonius was dead.
I mean, that could have been me.
You miss Polonius, don't you?
Who?
Hamlet was sent on his way, along with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to die in England. But on their way, they ran into Fortinbras and his men.
I didn't know who he was. He just looked so melancholy, you know? But after hearing about my plans to go and die battling over a worthless rock somewhere in Scandinavia, he seemed to perk right up.
Hamlet's meeting with Fortinbras proved to be a turning point in his personal philosophy. It was the thought of dying for something out of principle that inspired Hamlet, and he decided that from this time forth he would have nothing but bloody thoughts. The days that passed while Hamlet was on his way to England were not without incident. On Monday, Ophelia went insane. On Tuesday, Laertes returned from France with a thirst for vengeance.
I was très upset at the untimely murder of my papa, and I was determined to find the culprit and kill him. Bonsoir, mon ami.
On Wednesday, Horatio received a letter from Hamlet.
Pirates? Hamlet's ship was attacked by bloody pirates? Anyway, long story short, Rosenhurst and Guildenstern continue on to England.
Rosencrantz!
And Hamlet's on her way back here to Denmark and should be here tonight. Pirates. Who came up with that one?
When Claudius heard the news that Hamlet was back in town and looking to see him, he and Laertes developed a plan to kill Hamlet during a fencing tournament using poison. Poison would be part of the plan. The plan would very much utilize poison.
Mon Dieu, we poisoned everything. We put poison on the swords, in the wine, in the cups. We even poisoned his socks. We could not lose.
Apparently there were some kinks in the plan.
On Thursday, Ophelia drowned herself.
Laertes, Ophelia is drowned.
Drowned?
Drowned.
Drowned?
Drowned.
Drowned?
Drowned. Drowned.
Will you stop?
Drowned.
Gah!
Wait a minute. We're not the Gravediggers. Just be glad we're still in the script. Hey, what was all that stuff Hamlet was talking about? Oh, you mean the alas, poor Yorick monologue? Eh, that's what you want to call it. What was with him holding the skull and all? I just like skulls. He was just contemplating the cruel physical facts of death. That's the kind of thing that can make you lose faith in the significance of life, huh? Or wrestle with your dead girlfriend's brother over her grave. Yeah. That was one of the best funerals I've ever seen. What? Oh, come on. It had everything. Prayers, threats of bodily harm to priests, pretty flowers, wrestling matches, arguments, and not one but two people want me buried alive. I tell you, me wedding wasn't that fun. I suppose you're right. Damn right. It was a rollicking adventure. Still ashamed about Ophelia dying and all. Oh yeah.
Hamlet and Horatio were reunited. The morning after the disastrous funeral, Hamlet told Horatio the whole story about how he had been marked for death by Claudius, and how his two friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, were now on their way to England bearing a note Hamlet himself had doctored to require their deaths, thus rendering the bitter pill of duplicity now part of a single blind experiment in poetic justice, and bringing about a relapse of righteousness. Death, too.
It was a good run. At least I'm still with my best friend. Oh, brother, not even death.
Get away from me! The moment of truth, or the moment of death, had arrived. Laertes and Claudius poisoned everything Hamlet might touch, see, or read about, and Laertes' sword was unblunted. Good for killing.
I didn't go expecting to see that kind of bloodbath, you know? I just wanted to go see some good fencing. You know, maybe get the king's autograph. You know, flirt with a servant girl, maybe. Drink some wine. But I didn't expect to see that.
The fight raged on in a flurry of epées and more epées. Claudius began to grow uneasy as Hamlet looked to be on the verge of victory, and Gertrude unknowingly drinks the poisoned wine, leaving Claudius to watch helplessly as his beloved wife dies. While the struggle between Laertes and Hamlet becomes more intense, culminating in both being cut with Laertes' poisoned blade.
I started to suspect that something wasn't right when the Queen and Laertes both died. And when Laertes used his last words to implicate Claudius and to tell Hamlet that he himself was not 5 minutes from death himself, well, I began to think that something had gone wrong.
Hamlet, knowing that he was shortly to die, first exchanges forgiveness with Laertes as they absolve each other of responsibility for the 5 deaths they have caused. And now Hamlet, a moment away from oblivion, makes his peace with Claudius. At that moment, Fortinbras arrived from Norway, intent on capturing the throne.
I was all ready to do some serious damage. I walk in and everyone's dead.
Huh, indeed. It was the end of a tale of carnal, bloody, and unnatural acts, of accidental judgments, casual slaughters, of deaths put on by cunning and forced cause.
And in this upshot, purposes mistook fallen on the inventors' heads. All this and... Son of a... bloody poison!